Our reactive video this time, we listened to the presenter Zadie Maxine Badat talk about the high cost of cheap clothing. Over the years, I have thought about the increased number of clothing, and specifically right now, as I have teenagers, comparing the amount of clothing that they have to the amount of clothing I probably had as a teenager. It's sort of mind-boggling, and of course, I'm part of the problem um, with purchasing them clothing items and the requirements that they have as um, athletes, for various clothing items and the uniforms constantly changing and having to purchase new items. And so I do feel like generally as a society, we are extremely wasteful. Why are we purchasing new uniforms when the old uniforms are perfectly good? Um, and I think that that goes for a number of things. Why did we purchase that new shirt when we have 5 shirts in our closet that are still perfectly fine? So I I do think that this video provided a lot of food for thought about the fashion industry and the targeting of individuals throughout the fashion industry. And I hadn't really thought about the difference in clothing to the detail that Zadie brought up. I think, in some ways, the clothing, it definitely was made better. We didn't buy cheap to just throw away. Um, Years ago. Things were made of quality. They spent more on items with the intention that those items would last over a period of time. They would patch and repair items where now if something rips or there's a hole in it, we would just throw it away. Um, so it, like I said, this video did provide a lot of food for thought as far as, the overall waste of society and how many clothes do we really need to have? I think one of the things that Zadie brought up was a book, The Life Changing Magic of Tidying Up by Marie Kondos. And I did take a little bit of time to look at her website. She actually has a TV or a Netflix series now, so that might be a little bit interesting to watch and maybe catch some pointers on how I can um, work on things around my home as we try to streamline and become a little bit more minimalist than we have been, and perhaps do our share as far as globally and not being so wasteful. So I think that that might be an interesting show to take a look at. But one of the things that stuck out with me when I was reading through some of the items, areas on the website, was that you need to think about items that bring joy to you. And, certainly that can be said about our clothes as well. Um, One of the other things that I read about was to think about the clothing items that you are choosing when making those purchases and think about it. Really choose items that you are comfortable in, that make you confident, that you perhaps feel beautiful in or handsome in. Um, and target those areas instead of just, oh yeah, this is great, it's a shirt that I found for $5. um, I think one of the things that I did find as I was doing a bit of research about the difference between the 60s perhaps and today's society was that people did dress where I don't feel that people put as much effort a lot of times into their appearance and their clothing as they did many years ago. Um, then every day was an occasion. Women especially, had amazing style, even if it was just running to the grocery store, they were prepared. They looked phenomenal. Their hair was just so, their outfits were just so. They weren't running to the grocery store in sweatpants, which is, what you see a lot these days. And I think that that's just a reflection on society as a whole. Life was not as casual back in the earlier, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, as it is today. I think as a society, we've gotten probably much too casual. And maybe we could take a little bit of pointers from our grandparents and great grandparents and perhaps put a little bit more effort and not be as casual. And as we uh, take this video and need to apply it to business law, I did a bit of research in that area and found that there's actually one of the things I first looked at was what is business law? And the definition that I found was that it's a body of law which governs businesses, regulates contracts, hiring practices, etc. So, really, looking at business law and looking through our textbook table of contents, business law is really quite a wide range of things that have to do with business and companies, and so it really can explore quite a gamut of area. But one of the things that I did find when I was looking at business law as it related to the garment industry was that there is a quickly growing field called fashion law. And that is an area that specializes in and deals with legal issues affecting the fashion industry. It especially relates to copyrights, trademark laws, contracts and commercial transactions, employment, labor laws, and customs. As the presenter mentioned, a number of the items that we wear today are no longer made in the United States. They don't have the Made in America logo, and they're made in foreign countries. And so I think one of the things that is very important as far as business law is concerned in the fashion industry is the employment um, regulations, the labor laws in those various countries, and how companies need to be aware of what the labor laws are in foreign countries as they are utilizing foreign workers to prepare their garments for sale. Knowing what the custom requirements are for exporting items and utilizing workers in foreign countries. So um, that is certainly a very large area for a number of companies as they are outsourcing their labor for making, whether it's clothing in this case or other items that are being made in foreign countries and being imported into the US for sale. So I think business law is certainly a very active component in the garment industry as businesses are trying to get the best price or pay the least amount of costs as they can to have items made so that in all likelihood their profit margin is higher as they sell items in the US or even in other countries. So I think that these are all things for businesses to be aware of, and whether it's the fashion industry or another industry, it's very important that there be a large business, um, large component of the business that is focusing on the requirements to do business in other countries, being sure that there's not forced labor, being sure that there's not child labor that's being utilized, making sure that the environment is being thought about, Are there proper standards for workers? Is safety of importance in the companies that you are utilizing to make these items? Because if not, it could poorly reflect on you as a business owner or you as a company. So it's important that you are very proactive in making sure that everything is meeting the standards that you are looking for as a company. So if you're a company within the US, do you want the items to be made in accordance with labor laws that are followed in the US? So there is no child labor. Are the safety standards of importance? And so making sure that the safety standards are of like high quality and caliber in the factories that you are utilizing to make your product, so that if something comes out, you don't want negative press or reviews on your company because you've been doing business with these companies who are not putting safety at a high quality, who are not employing, or who are employing um, children to do the labor. So it's very important that there be a portion of your business that is focused on this type of thing, making sure that you are protecting yourselves and doing business in the best manner possible. And going back to my personal reflection, I do think that the um, the speaker Zadie did give a lot of food for thought, and for us personally, and as well as the how the environment is also being affected by the clothing industry as well as other industries. And so these are all things for us to be aware of, that our purchasing of an item at a lesser price in a store locally, where did that item come from? How did that item get made? Were they following the best protocols when making those items? And would it be worth it for us to pay a little bit more to be sure that items were made ethically and that we do have some sustainable clothing? Um, so doing a little bit more research and being a little bit more conscious of the decisions that we're making and the areas that we are putting our finances into supporting, I think could go a long way. Um, I think Zadie's background in international law probably has helped her understand exactly where these things are being made, what areas should there be concerns with, as well as her own personal conscience of making sure that she was trying to be as minimal, as a more minimalist as possible. So I did find this TED Talk very interesting. It definitely has given me some food for thought, and I do look forward to tidying up my own life. Thank you so much.